Are you wondering if you're autistic or just an introvert? It's a common question since introversion and autism share a variety of overlapping traits, like enjoying solitude and avoiding large social gatherings. But how do you distinguish between the two? In this guide, we'll explore 5 important questions you can ask yourself to help identify whether you're simply introverted, autistic, or perhaps a mix of both. Introversion versus autism spectrum disorder, ASD, a deeper dive. Let's start by understanding the general difference between introversion and autism spectrum disorder. According to psychology, we all exist on a spectrum ranging from extreme introversion to extreme extroversion. Most people fall somewhere in between. Introverts typically recharge by being alone and tend to avoid overstimulating environments, while extroverts gain energy through social interactions. On the other hand, autism spectrum disorder, ASD, is a neurological condition that affects social communication, sensory processing, and behavioral patterns. Importantly, while around 50% of the population identifies as introverted, less than 5% are diagnosed with autism. If you're someone who enjoys solitude, that's perfectly normal, but determining the underlying reasons behind it could provide clarity on whether autism might be part of your experience. 1. Why do you enjoy being alone? Do you prefer spending time alone because you find solitary activities, such as reading, writing, or gardening, inherently relaxing and enjoyable? If so, this leans more toward introversion. Many introverts find peace in personal hobbies that allow them to recharge. However, if you feel the need to isolate yourself due to the overwhelming stress of social situations, that could be a sign of autism. Autistic individuals often describe social interactions as exhausting or even anxiety inducing due to difficulties with social cues, small talk, and unpredictable behaviors. This leads to what's known as social masking, putting on a facade to blend in, which can be extremely tiring. For introverts, being alone is a preference. For many on the autism spectrum, it's often a necessity to escape overwhelming environments. Ask yourself this: is your time spent alone a personal choice or a means of avoiding external stress? If it's primarily the latter, it might be worth exploring an autism assessment. 2. How do you manage relationships? Another crucial distinction between introverts and autistic individuals lies in how they manage relationships. Introverts typically prefer a smaller circle of close friends and family members. They're often content with maintaining a handful of deep, meaningful connections and may not seek out new friendships frequently. Autistic people, however, often face challenges in maintaining relationships. They may crave deep connections, but find it difficult to achieve them due to misunderstandings, rejection, or an inability to navigate complex social dynamics. This struggle can lead to feelings of isolation and exclusion. For example, while introverts may choose to limit their social engagements, autistic individuals may experience rejection despite their efforts to connect. Consider this: are you satisfied with the relationships you currently have, even if they're few? If so, that aligns more with introversion. But if you find social connections draining due to misunderstandings and constant effort, autism spectrum disorder could be a possibility. 3. How sensitive are you to sensory inputs? Sensory processing differences are a hallmark of autism spectrum disorder. Many autistic individuals experience heightened or diminished responses to sensory stimuli such as sounds, lights, smells, or textures. For example, someone with autism might find shopping malls overwhelming due to the combination of bright lights, loud noises, and crowded spaces. Introverts can also have sensory preferences, but to a lesser degree. They may prefer quiet environments, but generally don't experience the same level of discomfort as someone on the autism spectrum. If you find yourself avoiding certain public spaces because they're overstimulating or needing to control your environment to function comfortably, that could be a sign of sensory sensitivity associated with autism. Ask yourself, are you generally okay in most environments, or do you feel the need to retreat frequently due to sensory overload? If bright lights, loud sounds, or even certain textures are particularly bothersome to you, this could indicate an atypical sensory profile linked to autism spectrum disorder. 4. Do you struggle with emotional regulation? Emotional regulation is another key area where autism and introversion differ. Autistic individuals often have difficulty managing their emotions due to sensory overload or unexpected changes in routine. They may rely on stimming, repetitive physical movements, or sounds to help self-regulate during times of stress. For example, if an autistic person spends time in a chaotic environment, they may later need extended downtime to recover emotionally. This is different from an introvert who may simply feel social fatigue after interacting with others. An introvert's recharge period is generally brief and centered around regaining energy, while an autistic individual might experience prolonged emotional dysregulation that affects daily life. Ask yourself, Do you find it easy to bounce back after social events or challenging situations, or do you feel emotionally drained for long periods? If emotional dysregulation frequently interferes with your ability to function, autism might be a factor. 5. Do you feel like an outsider? One of the most telling differences between autism and introversion is the sense of belonging, or lack thereof. Many autistic individuals report feeling like outsiders from a young age, often describing themselves as different or not fitting in. This can lead to feelings of alienation, particularly in school or group settings where social dynamics are less forgiving. Introverts, on the other hand, may feel shy or quiet in group situations, but don't typically experience the same profound sense of exclusion. They might avoid large gatherings by choice, but still feel comfortable participating when necessary. Autistic people, however, often feel excluded not because they choose solitude, but because their attempts to connect are met with rejection or confusion. Reflect on this. Have you experienced frequent rejection or exclusion throughout your life, especially in situations where you tried to fit in? If so, this could indicate an autistic experience. Conversely, if you prefer solitude without feelings of rejection, it's likely a sign of introversion. Final thoughts. Can you be both? It's important to note that introversion and autism are not mutually exclusive. Some individuals are both autistic and introverted, which can amplify the desire for solitude and the challenges of social interaction. If you relate to traits of both, consider seeking guidance from a mental health professional for further evaluation. Remember that autism is a spectrum, and not everyone with the condition will display the same traits. Similarly, introversion varies from person to person. By reflecting on the questions above, you can gain greater clarity and better understand yourself. If you found this guide helpful, please share your thoughts or experiences in the comments section. Understanding the nuances between autism and introversion can lead to greater self-awareness and acceptance. And if you suspect you might be on the autism spectrum, reaching out to a healthcare provider for assessment is a good next step.